So about 6 or 7 weeks ago, on a Sunday morning, there was a message here at the church out of 2 Kings, chapter 6. It's about the floating axe head. I know a lot of people have heard that story in the Bible. A lot of people haven't heard that story in the Bible. But there's a miracle of the floating axe head in 2 Kings chapter 6 with the first 7 verses of that chapter. And it's 7 short verses, but I was studying that about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I was going to use that in a sermon for faith, talking about faith. And I studied that scripture that week, and I got to thinking about the faith and the faith of the floating axe head, how that guy lost the axe head in the Jordan River. And I got to studying about that, and I was reading a couple of commentaries from different authors about the story of the floating axe head. But on Sunday morning before church, I'll always go to the woods, or either I'll go to the field behind the house and park the golf cart underneath the big pecan tree back behind the house, and I'll study if the weather's good. And I always love to go outside on Sunday morning, and I always love to go watch the sun come up on a Sunday morning. But this particular morning, I had some thoughts in my heart, and I had some thoughts in my head of the scripture that week, and I had the thoughts of the axe head and that story in my head. And I was reading back over that scripture that morning before church, and I want to show you what the Spirit gave me that morning. I want to read to you the 7 verses in the Bible, and then I want to tell you what the Spirit spoke to me that morning. It was just so good, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I just want to show you how good God is, and how He's working in my life, and how He's working here at Bethany. It's just been so awesome. The Spirit of God's been moving. We've been having some great services. Just so good to be here at Bethany, and the people are just so great. God's really been blessing us with some great services. People have been visiting. We've had people joining, people getting saved, people getting baptized. It's just been awesome. But I want you to listen as I read these 7 verses out of 2 Kings chapter 6. It says, "And the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, See now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan, and let every man take a beam from there, and let us make there a place where we may dwell. So he answered, Go. Then one said, Please consent to go with your servants. And he answered, I will go. So he went with them, and then they came to the Jordan. They cut down trees. But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water, and he cried out, and he said, Alas, master, for it was buried." I want you to remember that word in verse 5, buried. He goes on to verse 6, he says, "So the man of God said, Where did it fall? And he showed him the place. So he cut off a stick, and he threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, Pick it up for yourself. So he reached out his hand, and he took it." I see that word buried in verse 5 as that axe head was buried, and that guy cried out. He said, Alas, master, the axe head was buried. And I thought about that word buried, and I thought about my life here on earth. This vessel that I carry around, this old shell that I carry around is buried. I live in a buried body. I live in a buried vessel. And I thought about that word buried as he had that axe head that was buried, and he was upset. Iron back then was a precious metal. It was costly. It had a price to it, and he lost it. And he was very upset that that axe head had fallen into that water and it was lost. I think about, as I read books about the Jordan River, and I think about how muddy that river is, and how he could not see that axe head, and how that axe head had gone to the bottom, and he was very upset about it. You know, scientists today, they try to disprove the Bible, and they try to disprove and argue with everything that is being taught out of the Bible today. And some scientists might say, or some expert might say, that the Jordan River was clear. The Jordan River was a few inches deep back then. He could have reached over and found the axe head easily. But my Bible tells me that the axe head had fallen, and this guy that had buried the axe head was upset that that axe head was gone. So you go on over to verse 6 and verse 7. It says, so the man of God said, where did it fall? And he said, and he showed him the place, so he cut off a stick and he threw it in there and he made the iron float. And I got to verse 6 and I thought about that word stick. I thought about, when I saw that word stick, I thought about the cross of Calvary. And I thought about me being as that axe head. I thought about me being as that axe head, all just down in the bottom of that miry clay and just muddy and covered in sin when I was lost. I thought about that axe head, how it was just covered up, and so much of the world was on it, and so much of the world had it covered up. And I thought about me and how all that sin in my life had me covered up, and I didn't know what to do. But I thought about when he told him he took a stick, threw that stick in there. I thought about that stick being the cross of Calvary. There's a holy, righteous, almighty, in charge God in heaven. And I had no way, I had no access to that Father in heaven until he placed Jesus Christ here on earth. And I think about that stick. I think about that cross of Calvary. When that cross of Calvary was laid out and my Jesus laid upon that cross, my Jesus being perfect, my Jesus being holy, my Jesus having no sin whatsoever in his life, died for my sin, died for my transgressions. He came that I might have a way. He came that I can have access to his Father. I think about that stick being thrown down and that axe head floating. I think about how that cross was laid down and my Jesus was laid upon it, and they stood him up on a hill called Calvary. And through Jesus Christ and through that cross, this old axe head, this old buried body, this old sinner that was born in sin, that had no access to the Father, through Jesus, through that cross, I have access to a holy God. I just wanted to share that with y'all. I just wanted to share that about the buried axe head, about the lost axe head, and I wanted to share with y'all what I saw in that scripture and what Jesus, what the Spirit just showed me through that. And it's been on my mind for a few weeks about just sharing that with y'all, and I just thought it was awesome how God works. God works in mysterious ways. God can always show different people different things in Scripture, and it's just amazing how He's alive, how He's well, how He dwells inside of us, how He lives inside of us. I just wanted to share that with y'all today. If you got any questions about salvation, if you got any questions about God, if you got any questions whatsoever about anything you're dealing with, I would be glad to talk with you. I'd be glad to sit down with you and tell you about my Jesus. I love y'all, and I just wanted to share that with y'all today. See you later. Bye.